Okay, so as said, this will be a guide specifically for any percent that also doesn't play intro, so any percent no intro. And I'm gonna be assuming that whoever's watching this will know the game's basics and already has some experience with it. But as to how glitch inner workings are, I'm gonna keep that to a surface level because it's not that important to know. If you do want to learn more about the specifics, I'll leave a link to the Golden Sun Speedrunning Discord, and there you can learn more about the game and its glitches in depth. But that's not what this guide is all about. This guide is more about giving you a basis to run from. So, our starting point is going to be the game's rule set, and we'll just go from there. So let's bring up the rule set real quick. There we are. So, the objective for the category is to reach the credit sequence as fast as possible. Well, that's pretty self-explanatory. Just get to the end quickly. Next, runs start from a standard save just after completing the intro sequence by leaving Vale. A standard save is one which complies with the following restrictions. Okay, so the standard save will be available for download. I'll have a link to that as well. But you could also just play the intro yourself and set it up this way. So Isaac, Garrett, and Jenna have 1 XP. Well, that basically means you can't fight anything. No non-compulsory items have been obtained. Non-compulsory basically means everything except the elemental stars. So you have to skip everything other than, well, the Mars star. And then the set of quest flags in the highlighted regions are set to these values. I'll get back to that one in just a moment because the quest flags is a different thing on its own. So let's skip that for now, it's not too important. Next rule. The timing starts from power on, which means a hard reset, and ends with the final input to reach the credits. Also a pretty straightforward rule, just standard speedrunning terminology. The final input references the final A press, specifically that's used to warp to the credits. And the final rule, runs must show the debug flag menu after the run is completed. It is easier to show this via battle mode after the run. So that comes all the way at the end, but that does again reference the quest flags, which I'll show now, because it's good to know what we're talking about here. So I'll get rid of the rules, because we've gone through all of it. And let's bring up the flags. This is the image that is linked in the rule set as well, and what it shows is the distribution of your quest flags. It's not too important to understand, but basically once you're at the end, you can bring up this menu in-game through the debug mode, and we can use it to verify that your run is legitimate. And that's pretty much the only reason to have this. So that's all about rules. So let's just get to the route itself. If you're creating your own save file to start from, you have to set up your character names in a specific way. Because just starting to play the game and then going to the end isn't gonna work. We need specific names. So when we create a new file, and I'll quickly show it, we can press select 3 times, 1, 2, 3, and you hear the pling, and this will signify that you can change all character names. So this is what we need. We'll rename our characters to the following. Isaac will be named underscore, lowercase l, closing bracket, lowercase r, which is here. That's Isaac's name. Garrett is going to be named less than, at, uppercase f, lowercase u. And finally, Ivan needs to be named colon, exclamation mark, at, lowercase z. Mia's name doesn't matter, you can do whatever you want, you can just turn it into M or you can leave it Mia, it's all fine. And that's the only thing that you'll have to, and then you can start the file and speedrun the intro and create the file that way. So you don't have to use our file, you can make your own if you wanted to. But let's go back to the starting menu. So I already have my save file set up. So we're ready to begin a run. So as the rules say, we have to hard reset to start the run. So normally you would press the power on or the power off, power on button, and start your timer at the same moment. So I don't have a timer here, so it's not, and I mean, we don't have to, but just so you know, when you press hard reset, you have to also start your timer. So we would start our timer now. Okay, so we're gonna load up that save, and then immediately we have a choice, actually. So let's load the save, and we have a choice. We can either cast move right away, which will skip an encounter later, or we can choose to not cast move and fight that encounter. Both options are valid. I personally prefer not casting move and just taking that encounter. If you decide to cast move and skip the encounter, that has an impact on a small point of the gameplay later on too. So it's a trade-off, and both options are valid, as I said. I'm going to be going with not casting move in the tutorial because I like it. I personally like it better. So let's just get to Flint, and I'll be speeding through the cutscenes that don't matter. So for example, this cutscene doesn't matter. I'll just go to speed through it because it's not relevant. So yeah, we just have to get through all of it. So you just mash text to get through the cutscenes quickly, and there's nothing special about it. So this will always end you on the same RNG. There's nothing that changes it. And because we didn't cast move, we're going to be getting an encounter. So on the way to Vault, there we go. We get a Vermin. So this Vermin is a 0 AC, so we can simply run away. AC refers to the number of battle commands, usually plane attacks, that we have to put in before the GRN reaches a value that allows us to run away. I guess I could really touch on GRN as well. GRN refers to the game's general random number, which is one of two factors in how it handles RNG. The other factor is the battle random number, or BRN. This only impacts specifically battles, as the name suggests. It has little influence on this run in general, actually, so I won't really be talking too much about it. The main thing to remember is a BRN of 0 will set your... or BRN of 0 comes after a hard reset. So whenever you turn the power off and back on, your BRN will be 0. That's like the one thing to remember. So, as I said, this is a 0 AC, which means we don't have to do anything, we can just run away. So just go to flee and run away. Okay, so now let's just head over to Vault, and we're gonna get the Hammett cutscene. I'll speed through it a bit, but near the end I'll pause it for a moment. Okay, so I want to just wait here a moment and talk about the movement in Vault, because it's not particularly difficult, but it does impact your RNG if you aren't accurate. You could choose not to worry about it and just run through Vault at your own pace, and effectively you will get a random bandit chase, which is fine. Like, it will just on average be a little bit slower than if you were to do good movement, so it's your choice. Our main concern when we enter Vault is that the old lady is going to get in our way. If you pass by here like too close, you'll also impact her movement pattern, which will impact your GRN. So we want to give her enough space to not impact their movement, because we actually want her to just keep moving along as if nothing happened, and this will give us a good outcome. So let's just move through the cutscene, and the movement in Vault is we just have to go to the mayor's office, and as I said, we have to give the old lady enough space. If you give her enough space, she will walk upwards after you pass. There we go. If you don't give her enough space, she will walk downwards. It doesn't really matter too much. You'll still get to the bandit chase. You'll just have a slower bandit chase. So here we have to just start talking to Ivan. We'll skip through most of this, except for one part. Okay, so this part. Once Garrett's mind starts being read, the GRN is going to advance every few frames. With fast mashing, we can have one of two values, and we can determine which of these values we ended up on by looking at movement of NPCs in town again when we head towards the inn. But yeah, if you're looking for a really fast bandit split, this is a key point as well, to pay attention to the NPC movement. But again, you could just opt not to do any of this and just run through town at a reasonably fast pace, and you'll get a random bandit puzzle, and you'll lose like a second or two. Like, it's not a big deal. So that looked slow to me, so we're probably on a slow bandit puzzle, but we'll find out. And none of the other text boxes will change our GRN, so it's only the one where Garrett's mind is read. So, on our way to the inn, we have to hold down right on the stairs. Just give me a moment to get rid of my cat. Alright, so when we head out, we have to hold down right on the stairs, and we can actually jump down the stairs about halfway, which can save a little bit of time. So we'll be attempting that. And as I said, we have to pay attention to NPC movement if we want to be super fast. And the old lady's movement was a slower pattern, as she moved simply upright. Ideally, she will move up left first and then upright, but she was only moving upright here, which means we have a slightly slower pattern coming up. Alright, so about the inn or bandit chase, there's nothing really special to say. We're just gonna head on through it. Hang on, my cat is again deciding that this is the perfect time. There we go. Okay. So, where were we? Yeah, so the bandit chase, if you decide not to do any of the super precise movements, it will just be effectively random, and you can just practice a bunch of times to get a feel for what the patterns look like. Provided I've been paying attention, I should be getting a pattern that I know. So let's find out. Yeah, so we manipulated this movement by turning back and making him, the purple bandit that is, turn around again, so we could lock him into this corner. So this is slightly slower than if we had gotten the faster outcome on the mind read text box for Garrett. But again, it's really not a big deal. You don't have to if you don't feel like it. So, with that done, we get to the attic section, which means we have to run back outside and up the stairs. Or up the ladder, rather. We don't have to worry about GRN anymore. Any state that we get is fine. So, we get into the attic, we have to move this large crate. And after we've moved the large crate, we have to set flint. This is important because we need flint on the bandit fight. A really fast flint menu will take about half a second, but you just have to practice and eventually get a feel for it. Alright, so let's start the sequence. We have to talk to the guy, and I'm going to speed through this because it's not important. Okay, so the bandit fight. I'm going to go through the strategy, but do note that if you decided to cast move and skip the vermin encounter all the way at the beginning, this fight will be different. So, I don't have an easy way to give you that strategy as well. I'll probably just put it in the description or something like that. Alright, so the strategy goes as follows. On turn 1, Isaac casts Flint, Garrett casts Flare, and Ivan casts Ray. And for this strategy, everything goes on the middle bandit. You don't have to do any targeting, just everything goes on the middle. So, So the middle bandit will use Slice, and the other two bandits will pass their turns. Then on turn 2, we're going to have Isaac defend, Garrett will also defend, and Ivan casts Ray. This again manipulates the actions of the bandits so that the two purple guys will pass their turn, and the middle bandit will use a normal attack. Okay. So, turn 3. Isaac will cast Venus, Garrett will use defend, and Ivan will use Ray. Again, manipulating the outcome for the two purple bandits to skip their turn, and the middle bandit will use Slice. Or will skip their turn, they die here, so you know. Okay, and then the final turn goes defend, defend, Ray. And that's the bandit fight. Note that their targeting is random if you didn't do anything particularly specific throughout Volt. So sometimes you'll have more damage on one than another, but in general it doesn't matter who they target. So, let's move on. And I'm gonna skip through the next cutscene because it doesn't matter. After the cutscene, we're going to save our game in slot 3, specifically slot 3, and then we will just soft reset and Sanctum warp. If you're not familiar with Sanctum warping, it's when you hold down Start and L, or the left shoulder, together when you load a save file. And that will actually teleport you to the towns, to your last visited town's Sanctum. In this case, that's quite useful because we have to save here anyway for much later. So we save on slot 3, and you can buffer a soft reset. What that means is that you can input the combination to soft reset the game, which is A, B, start select, I want to say. I always forget, because I'm on keyboard. But you soft reset the game as it's saving, and it will automatically reset at the first available frame. So this way you don't lose any time resetting. So we load, as said, as a Sanctum warp, so we press left shoulder plus start and load the file. This puts us into the Sanctum. I'm going to pause here because the movement is actually quite important here. So as we saw there, I did a quick down right. I'll actually rewind and do it again. But so we're loading the game, and when we load in, we have to do a quick down right tap to avoid the healer inside the Sanctum. And then when we get outside, we have to also avoid the healer on our right when we get outside. You want to give him plenty of space because we have to wait for a moment before exiting the town anyway. And that will look like this. I'm going to quickly... Okay, so quick down right, give this guy a half circle, and exit town. Walk for a moment, and there you see, at the very end there, the woman in green turns to the right. This influences our GRN, and that's actually the outcome we want. If you are too fast on exiting, which is doubtful because you have to be really fast, but it could happen, your GRN will be wrong. So what you want to do is when you feel like your movement has been too fast, which generally speaking won't be the case, but it could be, then you want to let go of the run button for just a moment to lose a few frames of time. And that will ensure that you get the correct GRN for this overworld. So, the way to Goma Cave, it's pretty simple. We just go this way. Once we reach the bridge, we can just hold up plus right. This ooze is also 0 AC, similar to the vermin before, so we can just run away immediately and keep running up plus right. And there's Goma Cave. So, here, we need to set up for a future retreat warp, which means we have to get rid of most of our synergy. And to do that, we'll just spend it all on move casts on these pillars. and some cures. So we have to push this pillar anyway, so let's cast move. And let's push it again. And now here's the thing where how many people took damage on the Bandit encounter will matter. If you only have one person with damage, which is currently not the case, but if either Isaac or Garrett took damage, then you have to do 6 cancels on this pillar. If both of them, so this scenario, if both of them took damage, you have to do 4 cancels. And a cancel is basically you cast move and you press move again, so you cancel. And you do that 4 times, because we took damage twice. Then we just continue through the plateau as normal. Whoops, that's fine. We'll be okay. I'm going to skip through most of this. So, after we get through all of this, and we push this pillar, we will jump onto the platform, turn up, and we'll have to cast Cure twice. But because we just missed one move, we'll just go regenerate our synergy. That's 1. That's 2. Okay, so you would be at 7. So we go into the menu, and because we're looking to cast Whirlwind to clear out the foliage, but at the same time we can cast Cure, which will be a little bit of time save. So let's cast Cure twice, and then cast Whirlwind. So, now we can just run into the cave. The encounters in here are going to be random. We're just gonna hope that we get good RNG, basically. So we're gonna run for it and just try to run away from whatever we face. If it lets us run away, good. If it doesn't let us run away, that's too bad. We just keep running. We keep trying to run, basically. Alright, so this encounter is quite early, which is unfortunate, but it's also not that big of a deal. Alright, so we managed to run away. We are a bit low on health, but again, it shouldn't matter, effectively. What we're trying to do is just get through the cave as fast as possible. So we're just going this way. And here we have to check our synergy. We're at 4. Very good. This means we can just retreat warp immediately. So we use retreat and confuse the game. So there we go. Retreat warp active. Save our game into slot 2. Important. We need this vault file later, so don't save over it. Save into a new slot, slot 2. And then we have to hard reset. We just load slot 2, and this will put us out of bounds. Now that we're out of bounds, we have to save the game in slot 1, and save it again. This is a Duran manip. We'll just make sure that we don't get too many encounters on the way out, basically. And we're going to be walking quite a while out of bounds, so... and we'll be out of view as well for a moment. So we're going to go upright until the wall, which I'll explain in a moment. Alright, early encounter. We can just run away. This first encounter, you can always just run away. I'm going upright until this wall is roughly in the middle of our screen. So it's something like this. It's not super precise, just roughly in the middle of your screen. And then just run up. And we'll probably be getting another encounter. There it is. And this encounter, if you get it, you don't always do, but if you do, it will be 3 attack cancels. So 1, 2, back, back. 1 more, that's 3, back, back, run. And that will get you out of the dungeon if you just run up again. There we are. This is the final room, and there's no encounters here, so we can just run outside. But, however, we have damage on 2 people because we got a pretty bad encounter in the cave. So, let's just quickly heal it up. This is a good time to do it, and then we just exit. Okay, so we've reached Bilibin. I'll go over Bilibin a bit more quickly, because there's not that much to do in it. It's just a quick shop, and that's pretty much it. Alright, so run inside. We go to the armor vendor, which is this building, and the left guy, and we talk to him and we want to sell stuff, because we don't have any money, but we need money to buy things. So let's sell, and we're going to sell the following items. For Isaac, we're going to sell the short sword and the bandit sword. And then we are also going to sell Ivan's items. We're going to sell the wooden stick, we're going to sell the travel vest, the leather armlet, and the circlet. And this will get us enough money to buy the following items. We go back, we buy the bronze shield, and all of this goes to Isaac. But keep in mind, do not sell any of Isaac's items back to the vendor when he asks for it. And also don't accept any of the tickets that he offers. So don't sell your items back, and don't take any tickets. Important. So, bronze shield goes to Isaac. Would you like to equip it? The bronze shield we would like to equip. So we say yes. How does 7 coins for the padded gloves sound? No, we do not want to sell these, so we just press B or no. B is faster. And we do not want any tickets either, so that's it. Then we buy the leather gloves, we give them to Isaac, and do not equip them, and we don't want the game ticket. Then we want the open helm, which we do not equip, so we don't equip, and we don't want the ticket. And finally, we buy the wooden cap. And the wooden cap we do equip. And when we buy the wooden cap, we make sure to pay attention what our defense goes to. So in this case, it will go to 37, but it could also go to 36. Depending on the value you get here, you have to keep it in mind for later. So we're getting 37 now. It could also be 36 in your run, so just keep that in mind. We do not want the game ticket, and that's it. That's the shop. So let's run outside, and now we need the hard nut. This is an item that will boost our defense as well. So the hard nut is located in this building. So we just from the weapons shop, we go down left to this building, and we go up, and it will be up here in this box. Check the barrel. There it is. Isaac got a hard nut. So that's what we wanted. Now we can just go and leave Bilibin. This girl can sometimes get in your way. It's unfortunate, and there's not much you can do about it. Okay, so we've made it through Bilibin. Next up, we're going to save the game in slot 1 and soft reset. It's important that you do not hard reset when this guide doesn't tell you to. So soft resetting effectively means you're just going back to the title screen without turning off the power. So load slot 1 again, and we run to the barricade. You'll make it without any encounters, so we head this way, straight for the barricade. Now, depending on Isaac's defense value, which could be 36 or 37, we have to use the hard nut at a different time in the barricade. If your defense is 36, you have to use it immediately, so if you would have a 36 value, you would have to open your menu right away. Don't step, nothing, just open your menu and use the hard nut. But we are at 37, so we don't have to do that. We need to use it after casting move to push the pillar out the way. However, the move cast, if you were to just throw it out randomly, you would also get a random RNG seed. The problem with this is that the hard nut defense boost also relies on that GRN, so you have to get a consistent setup. And the setup is going to be as follows. We're going to run up plus right into this corner, press right and left. You'll notice Isaac gets pushed down by 1 pixel when you bump into this pillar, and that gives you a visual cue that your positioning is correct. So we cast move and instantly move the pillar downwards so we can pass. And here is where we use the hard nut when we have 37 defense. So let's use it. And in both cases when we use the hard nut, our defense goes up to 39, and that is precisely the value you need. If you don't get 39, you have to soft reset and try again. So, with that out of the way, we are at 39, so we can continue on. We just head this way, follow the path, but we're gonna veer left here, because we need the turtle boots, and they're located out in this location. We do need to get an encounter before grabbing them, just so we have a good outcome on our RNG. So the moon itself is quite lenient. We've reached this is the location for turtle boots. We need an encounter now. So let's just wiggle a bit. There we are, an encounter. This will be a bat and 2 soldiers. 0 AC as well, so we don't have to input any commands, we just run away. And then we pick up the boots. Make sure you watch the full animation. Don't cancel out of the animation, you need to watch all of it, because the GRN advance on picking up the boots is random. And by waiting it out, yes, you're kind of losing a little bit of time, but your encounter will be consistent. And by having a consistent encounter, you're technically actually saving time on average. So we just head to Column Forest now, and we'll face a single rat, which is also a 0 AC, so we can just run away. Okay, so let's get to the forest, and we have to get through this cutscene. So, the GRN advances every single frame in this room, so it will effectively become completely random. We'll have no idea. We're just gonna run through the dungeon as if we're playing the game casually. Except we're going to try to run away from everything. We don't want to fight anything, because we don't want to gain any experience. I'll be speeding through this cutscene because it's not relevant, and the outcome will be RNG. We can't control it, so I'll just speed through. Okay, so we're just going to progress through the dungeon like normal. There's no tricks, we just hope we get good RNG. And any encounter we get, we just try to run away. We're not trying to fight, we'll just run. Okay, so let's try. It didn't let us, but we can just try again. And there will be times where you get bad RNG, and sometimes it will be a bit slower, sometimes it will be a bit faster. It's just a bit down to luck. Okay, so we notice we just took damage. You can choose to leave party members damaged if you want to play a bit more risky. But I like to play safe and just heal. So I'm gonna heal Garrett, but Isaac has a lot of armor, so I think he'll be fine at 50 HP. So I usually leave him on low health, but for the purpose of the guide, I'm just gonna heal him up as well, just to be completely safe that I'm not gonna have Isaac die on me and, you know, have to do the whole thing again. Just keep in mind that constantly healing everybody technically is a small time loss. But, yeah, it's a safe strategy. So let's just progress through the dungeon. And 2Bs are very scary. Ivan is, for example, able to die now if we don't manage to run away. If a party member dies, that's not a big deal. But just keep it in mind. So I'm gonna heal everybody just to be safe. And we'll just go solve this puzzle. Large encounter, so people could die if we get unlucky. let's find out what happens. Yeah, so Garrett goes down. It happens. It's not a big deal. It's kind of annoying more than anything. The main person that we care about is Isaac, and it's looking like Isaac might take some damage here, but we managed to get away. So sometimes you'll get a really bad forest. This is fairly bad, I would say. I'm gonna cure again, because I'm thinking we're getting more encounters. But your sole aim is to get through this with Isaac alive. If Garrett and Ivan are both dead, you'll still be fine. So we flip the switch here, and now we have to go get the fur coat. Because we need to build up our defense value for later. Okay, so normally you would have to solve the puzzle, and it would just be terrible, and just slow. But there's a trick. So we can just run up here, up left. I'll explain it a bit more easily. So we can just run up along this line, and just run up, and then when we get near the fur coat, we can up left into this tree trunk, and then left, and now we are in position for this trick. The trick is that if you press up in this position for 1 or 2 frames only, you'll be able to interact with the chest. And that lets you pick up the fur coat, obviously. So it is quite tight, as I said, 1 or 2 frames only. So let's try it. We press up. That seems too much. Yeah. So let's try again. Nope. And this can be quite annoying, especially if you haven't practiced it. There we go. So yeah, so a 1 or 2 frame button press is quite a challenge if you don't actively practice, and I haven't practiced it, so I really should. But let's move on. We've picked up the fur coat. Actually, I forget, we have to actually equip everything at that moment. So when you pick up the fur coat, open up your item menu, equip the fur coat, and equip the turtle boots, because we picked those up earlier too. And you'll notice that our defense goes to 55, and that is the perfect value. And then we just move on to treachery, so we have to go solve this puzzle. Alright, so we're just going to continue on to treachery. I'm expecting one more encounter because we got one pretty early. Sometimes you don't. It kinda, as I said, it depends on RNG. Single troll, and we managed to run away instantly. Very nice. So, we've made it to treachery. So, when we enter, we're... Sorry, one moment. When we enter, we need to turn left immediately and go climb up the vine inside. And then we head down left and outside onto the branches. So left, and we're just gonna go climb this vine. And down left, outside. Cool, we made it. Now we have to check our synergy. It's 24. It's usually going to be 24. Sometimes you'll have a little bit less if you've cured someone recently, or if you've saved damage on characters until here. You could use Cure now to get rid of a bunch of synergy more easily, but because we don't have any damage, we just have to spam move to drain our synergy. So we have to get to 5 or lower, which means we have to cast move 10 times. So I'm just going to speed through it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We've cast it 10 times. We're at 4 synergy. That's lower than 6, so 5 or lower. There we are. So we can cast Retreat, and then save the game in slot 1. And here we hard reset. Hard reset is important. We have to clear out all of the map data from the overworld and Build-A-Bin. We have to clear all of it, and a hard reset will do it. So hard reset. And this is where things become very difficult. The section of the run has to be played with Isaac completely outside of the game's field of view. We have no way of knowing where we are other than memorizing what the out-of-bounds landscape is supposed to look like, and then we go off of that. So, in order to make this more viewable for audiences watching this guide, I'm going to use a script that will visualize the tiles near Isaac. So I'm going to turn that on now. Okay, so this script will show a lot of info. It's not particularly relevant, but the main thing that matters is that I will have a grid in the middle when we load in, and this will show the tiles near Isaac. So I will activate this, and we're going to load slot 1, and let's load in just to get started. So this is what we'll see. We see this grid around the middle square is Isaac, and when I move, we can see the grid moves with us, so we have a rough idea. And this will help me explain what we're doing. So I'm gonna just reset again. It doesn't matter, but just for clarity, I'm gonna reset again. And let's explain how this out-of-bounds movement works. So as we listen to the music there, there's this background bass line, and that music is what we're going to use because the notes that play in the bass line are roughly spaced 1 second apart. So we can use it to count effectively, and that's what we're going to be doing. So on top of that, the encounters we face are semi-random. The variance comes from our encounter rates in the first 3 rooms that we just went through in treachery, and yeah, you could technically build a list of encounters and get RNG manipulation that way in the out of bounds, or you can just run and get effectively random results, which technically loses a small amount of time, but it's not that big of a deal. If you're just trying to get a decent time, you don't have to do any of that. You can just run and try to run from everything. So, that having been said, the movement that we have to do goes as follows. We have to run up for 4 of those background notes, and then up left for 13. Just keep that in mind. And after every encounter, I'm going to discard the first note. So if we get an encounter and then the first note we hear, we're not going to count it. We're just going to count from the next one on. So there's one more thing before we can start this out of bounds, and that's that some encounters will mess with our out of bounds map. And this is a big problem because we wouldn't be able to see what changed. So in order to know when your map is changed, there's a general rule for which encounters will mess it up. And I'm going to quickly try to explain this rule. So for each encounter we face, the game will do a fairly simple calculation. Every enemy in a group you face will increment a counter. Smaller enemies, so we're talking about bees, spiders, and rats, these will increment the counter by 1, and larger enemies will increment the counter by 2. When the last enemy of a group is a small enemy, and the counter has reached 5 already, this encounter will overwrite your out-of-bounds data and require a reset. That sounds a bit abstract, so I'll give an example instead. Just give me a moment to show the example. Okay, so for example, let's take this encounter. We have a bee, 2 soldiers, and 1 rat. The bee is a small enemy, so that's a counter from 0 to 1. The soldiers are both regular-sized enemies, so they increment the counter by 2 each. So 1 plus 2 will be 3, 3 plus 2 will be 5, and then we have a counter that reached 5. And we still have the rat at the end to count as well, so this will increment specifically from 5 to 6. This means this encounter will affect the out of bounds, and therefore we have to hard reset after we get it. So, again, It's only an issue when you specifically go from 5 to 6. If you go from 4 to 6 or from 4 to 5, that's fine, nothing will matter. Your out of bounds will be the same. But if you go from 5 to 6, you have to hard reset. So, I'm going to load a state for consistency. It should be this one. No, this one, sorry. We're going to load this state, just to be consistent. So this is at the same location. We're going to go out of bounds and start doing the movement. So, as I mentioned, we have to run up for 4 seconds and then up left for 13. So let's go do it. Let's load in. 2, 3, 4, left. Oh, and there's the first encounter. So, we've run up for 4 seconds and a bit, but let's throw the bit and just say 4. This encounter will just be a 0 AC, but that's because we just did a hard reset. And when you hard reset, your BRN goes to 0, and the BRN of 0 will always make the first encounter a 0 AC by virtue of getting attacks first as a command, which lets you just run away from anything. So we'll run away, and we'll remember that we already got 4 notes, so we can start running up left immediately after this encounter, pretty much. And as we said, we have to go up left for 13. So let's go do that. So we run and up left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, almost 10. So here's a good example encounter actually. Let me just quickly get rid of all the junk in the middle of the screen. So this encounter, for example, does not affect the out of bounds. Why not? Well, because we have a B and another B, so this 1 plus 1 will be 2, plus a rat will be 3, plus another rat will be 4, and then we go from 4 to a soldier, which is a plus 2, so 4 plus 2 will be 6. So we went from 4 to 6, and this does not mess with our out of bounds. So I happen to know this encounter, because I have it written down. This will be 1 AC. If you do a different manipulation, it won't be, so make sure you do your own testing and figure out what works for you. But for me, this will be a 1 AC, and then I can run away. And I will pause the game when I do that and turn the script back on, because I kind of need it. So, we were at 9 when we got here, or 9 and a bit, so let's call it 10 when we load in, and just start running. And we have to go to 13, so we have to go up for another, or up left for another 3 background notes, and then from there we can do the next movement. So we go, whoops, that's the wrong, up left, 3, 4, and there we are. So we've wedged in between these 2 tiles of 255, and you will always end up here if you just run up left the whole time. You could run for a bit longer to be absolutely sure that you got there, and from here we can turn right for 1 second, so right until we hit this block. It's just a moment, and then we will go up for 6 to 8 background notes, and ideally we get another encounter on the way there. So 6 to 8 notes, hopefully get an encounter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and a bit, and we just try to run away. And I mean, the script will tell us that this one lets us run away, which is great, but that's not always going to be the case. Sometimes you won't be able to run away, so you know, it will depend. But in this case, we do manage to run away, which is great. So let's run, and then after getting that encounter, we will save the game in slot 1. And we will hard reset. Now, instead of loading the slot 1 immediately, first we're going to go to the battle menu. So let's go to the battle menu, load slot 1, and we just load this room and just exit, just run out. And what this does, it loads that room's map data into the treachery out of bounds, and it sets the out of bounds up to be favorable to us and give us a nice setup for the next part. So we load in, and we will run up. And you'll see that we get stuck in this corner, which is perfect. This is where we want to end up. And you see a bit higher, the data is constantly changing. I will turn off encounters for a moment and show you what exactly is going on here. So this data is what we call the RNG river. So why do we call it that? Well, because it feels RNG, like it seems like it's completely random. If you look at it like this, just the values are constantly changing. How would you possibly get anything consistent out of this? Well, it turns out that it is consistent, and the consistent thing about it is that this data represents the game's music. So since it represents the music, if we were to just start from a reset, the music is always going to start at the same time, and therefore you will get a consistent outcome on this river. To get a setup, however, that lets you cross the river, because that's what we're hoping to do next, that requires a bit more manipulation, so to speak. So let's just go back to hard resetting and turn off all that. Yeah, so to be able to get across the constantly shifting data stream, we need to save the game in a precise location. How do we get up to that precise location? Well, as I said, we do this battle menu, we load the save file, and we run up into this location. I didn't turn on my encounters. Unlucky. So we have to wiggle back and forth in this spot roughly to get an encounter, because we don't want to get an encounter in the middle of the river. Trust me, you don't want that. So we have to run back and forth here until you get an encounter. We're going to get an encounter pretty soon now. And then we just run away. There's nothing to fight about. We just get the encounter and we run. Cool. Run up. So we've run up. And then let's see if I've properly... I haven't properly written down what the movement is. So basically, after you get the encounter, you run up for a moment until you're sure that you're standing against this block saying 15. And then we have to press right for a moment. So if you press right, you'll hit the wall to your right, and then we press left and we'll hit the wall to the left. And this is the setup that I use to get me across the river. And then we save the game. And I... just for consistency's sake again, I have a state saved for this, so let's see if I can find it. Should be this one, and it is. So, we've loaded this state just for consistency's sake. Alright, so from here, provided we set it up properly, we can simply hold up plus left across the river once we reset the game. Because right now, we're blocked by all these tiles, so we, again, save the game, hard reset. To clear out the map data from the battle menu. So, before we load in, as I said, we're going to be holding up plus left. But the RNG part of the river is that when you load into the game, if you're just holding a direction, Isaac will move, or will begin moving on one of 2 frames. So this can actually matter when the data changes every frame. So it can happen that you start moving on the wrong frame and you get kicked out. When that happens, you just reset and try again. It's not a big issue. On top of that, we have to count out the movement that we're doing, because we have to end up in a specific location after the river. So what we're going to be doing is listening to the music, again, the bass line in the background. We're going to be counting to 7 with it. including the one where we load in, just start counting immediately. So, we're going to be trying it out. Let's see if it works. So we load in, up plus left for 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and it didn't work. So let's reset. You don't have to hard reset, but I want to get a particular outcome here, so I'm just gonna try it a couple times. But yeah, you can get caught like this if you end up moving on the wrong frame, which is random because you don't control which frame Isaac starts to move on. And, well, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Nope. I'm gonna soft reset because I'll change my out of bounds slightly with it. Up plus left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you have to be quite precise. If you're undershooting it, that's fine. If you're like slightly under 7, that's okay. You'll eventually end up in the right location. If you overshoot, that's a big problem, and you'll actually mess up the out of bounds process completely. So make sure you don't hold it for longer than 7. Like, basically precisely 7 and then let go. Don't overshoot the mark. Anyway, this encounter, we can just run away. And run up. After which we can hit this top of the wall. That's our goal. I'm gonna just do it one more time because it's kind of hard to explain all of it as it goes, but we're trying to reach this part of the wall, which all these 160s are just showing us the edge of the map, basically. We can't go any further. And if you try to talk to the map, which you can in this case, it will say that you're checking the jar and didn't find anything. Great. Perfect. Which is just a nice way to know that you're at the top of the map. You can try to press A and it will give you the text box. But let's do the river again, because we do kind of want to explain it a couple times. So we're going to load in, hold up left for 7, and then let go. And ideally we don't get an encounter on the way to the top of the map. It can happen that you do get an encounter. It's actually, from my testing, it's more likely that you do get an encounter than that you don't. But ideally you don't get an encounter. Let's try. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you saw that I kinda undershot, but it's not that big of a deal. Like, you would be here and you can just hold up, and then you will up left tap slightly, like tap up left, and eventually you'll make it to the top. And you'll know that you're stuck because if you open your menu, you'll still have Isaac, Garrett, Ivan as a party member. But now that we've reached the top of the map and we've ran through the 55 tile that we see just below us, we've actually crossed into deep out of bounds, and I'll be explaining that from now on. So once we've passed beyond the river and reached the edge of the map, which we're at now, we're in the deep out of bounds, which, as I just said, this region of memory houses actually like all the things stored in this save file. So your character stats, like experience, health, and synergy, but also your inventory or your quest progression, pretty much anything you can think of that would be saved, that's here. So why are we here? Well, we're primarily interested in Isaac's current defense, which is why we've been gathering all these pieces of armor and the hard nut. That's why. This tile, when walked on, which we just did, will write data to another region in memory, and this region of memory will govern our party setup. So effectively what we're doing by walking on that tile is we're corrupting our party. So logically, the glitch is called party corruption. So by passing through the tile on the way up here, we've already performed the first step towards triggering the final glitch, which is Ace. So now that we have done that, we can open our menu and notice that Jenna and Felix are now in the party. But Garrett and Ivan are gone. This is actually the intended outcome. I'll get rid of the script for a moment so you can see it more clearly. Let me just go like this. There we are. So we have Jenna, Invisible Felix, and Isaac. Cool. So we'll be using this type of glitch 3 more times, because every time we do it, we'll increment our total party member count by 1, and we want 8 total party members. So, to set us up for the next part of the glitch, we set the cursor on Jenna, which we have done, and then tap the right shoulder button 4 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And this looks very weird, but this makes it so that we now have Jenna 3 times and Isaac once. Currently you can't see that because the game handles these actions in a pretty strange way, but if we exit and try again, we'll see that it's true. And Felix is in the slot 5, which is whatever. So we have 3 times Jenna and 1 Isaac. That's the important part. So, after that, we exit this menu, open the Jin menu, and stand by Flint. This is because some encounters we face in the Out of Bounds will require us to use Venus. So, from here we can save the game, and I'll turn the script back on because we do actually need that so we can see. So, we save the game, and here we can reset. If you got an encounter on the way here, you should hard reset. If you didn't get an encounter on the way here, you can soft reset. But for consistency, I'm gonna hard reset, just to keep it clear. So let's hard reset. So before loading in, again we should first enter the battle area. To again adjust our out of bounds data. So we load the battle area, exit, and then load slot 1. So now we need to level up. There's 2 reasons for that. First of all, if we give Jenna enough experience to go over 130 total, so 131 or more, the game will disable any further encounters. This is a check implemented by the developers to prevent us from grinding in Soul Sanctum, basically. But since Jenna is normally removed from your party after the intro, the developers didn't think it necessary to, check the flag only during Soul Sanctum, and that therefore checks at all times. At any time, if Jenna gets more than 131 experience, or 131 and more experience, when she is in our party, or when she is active rather, the game will disable all random encounters. Do note that active isn't the same as her being in our party, so this will come in useful later. So that's one reason. The other reason is that Isaac's defense values aren't currently lining up properly with the values we need to successfully party corrupt further. So by leveling up we can increase our defense value and then move on like that. Keep in mind there's some RNG when leveling up. You can either get +1 defense or +2 defense, and for the purpose of these glitches you have to get +2 defense when you level up with Isaac. So we can choose to either perform RNG manip to get the right bonus, or you can just fight something random and hope it works. It's fine. Both methods are fine. Just do keep in mind that we only want to level up once with Isaac. If you level up twice, you're going to get too much defense most likely, and then it won't work anymore. So I'm just going to hard reset again to get a consistent outcome, because I have a list of enemies that I can fight, and I'll have a known outcome for it. 2 Bs, that's not correct. Let's try again. Let's wait a moment and then try again. 2 spiders, very good. Okay, 2 spiders. Without getting an encounter before, let me just check. Two spiders. So flare, defend, Venus right. So I have this written down I have a list. It's quite lengthy. I'll probably provide it at some point, but just know that you could technically figure these out on your own, or you could just attempt to get random level ups and get lucky, which is what I used to do. And that works fine as well, like it's not that big of a deal. Anyway, so our defense goes up by 2, which is what we want. Perfect. We also gained enough experience for Jenna so that random encounters are now disabled, which is great. Notice that the tile we're standing on right now is now 57 because, again, this tile is Isaac's current defense, and we've leveled up, so we went from 55 to 57. This is quite useful because now we can move up, which I'll explain. The easiest way to make sure you're in the correct location is to just, after getting an encounter, just run up for a while. So you'll hit the wall again. Give me a moment. So we just run up and we hit the wall. You can verify that you're at the wall by, again, you can interact with it and get this text box. Cool. So what happened now that we touched the 57 tile, it's changed our party menu again, or party setup rather, and now we have PC07, Felix, and Double Isaac. Also Felix is over here, but fair enough. Anyway, so after doing that, we can just move this right once. So let me just read, because I am very bad at explaining this and I have written it down. Alright, so the easy way to do it is to run up for 1 second, that's what we did. Then this tile should have a value 557, that's what we did. So we open the status menu, yeah, here we are. Open the status menu, press the right shoulder button once, that's what we're gonna do. There we go, we see that everything moves over. In a rather strange fashion, like we have this weird thing over here. You know, it gets quite weird because the game doesn't quite know what's going on. But after we've done that, we now have 6 party members. Even though we can only get to the 5th, but we do have 6, don't worry about it. We close the menu, go to our items tab, and now we need to lower Isaac's defense by 1 point. And we can do it by equipping the open helm, which will replace the wooden cap. So let's equip the wooden helm, and then we can visualize this again. So now we have to run over the defense tile again. The easiest way to do it is just run down for about a second. So let's do it. 1, and you'll see that I'm overshooting it by a lot. So you don't have to move this much, but it's easier to do it this way. So now we've hit the 56. So we can open our status menu again. Press the right shoulder button once. Exit, open your item menu, and now we have to equip the leather gloves and the wooden cap again, because we have to get to 53. And this is what we're at now, 53 defense. So then we just run up to the wall again, and as we'll see, here you are. We are at the wall with Mia. And we still have 7 right now, and that's important. We don't want to move Mia yet. We have Mia, cool. And I've realized that I've made a slight error here. So I'll just quickly do it again. I'm gonna hard reset, get the encounter, yada yada. And the slight error is that I didn't load the battle menu. So let's, as I say, we have to load the battle menu, it's important. Even I forget. We have to load it. So let's load the battle menu. Load this, wait just a moment. Different encounter. Okay, let's find it, because I do have this written down as well. 1 AC, flare, beats. Let's speed through it. That should be +2. And it is. Cool. Okay, so we're back here. And you'll see that there's a slight difference here now. Anyway, let's hit the 57, do this. I'm just going through what I just explained, but I'm going to do it a bit faster so I don't lose too much time. So, let's do it again. Whoops. Equip the leather gloves, equip the cap. So now we have Mia, and we run up to the wall again. So now we're back to where we just were. We just adjusted so I don't have the mistake anymore. So, we've run up into the wall, After that, we have to end up on the other side of this purple tile. So this 251 next to us, we have to get to the other side. It's quite easy to do it. We just up plus right, so we're sure we're next to it. And then we down plus right for about half a second, then up plus right for about half a second, and then up plus left. And then we're on the other side. So basically we're just going to the other side of the tile. It's fairly straightforward, but might take a couple attempts to practice to get it right. But we're here. Once we're here, we can actually go in and activate our 8th party member by moving Mia to the right once. So we move her to the right once, we'll see that we now have 4 people outside of the normal box, which means we have 8 party members. So we have 8 party members, which is what we wanted all along. And then we need to head into the item menu again and unequip the fur coat, unequip the turtle boots, and unequip the wooden cap. We only want the leather gloves to stay because we want our defense to be 24. As we can see, we have 24 defense, so that's great. And now we have to drain our synergy. We are at 26. We can check like this as well, 26. We have to get down to 0. So let's start spamming move. I'll speed through it a bit, but you just spam move until you're out. So we're at 0 now, but you can keep spamming move and eventually you'll get the message move, not enough synergy. Perfect. And now we have to get to the other side of this tile again. So the reason was that we wanted to open our menu on the tile we're on now, which we've done already. And then we have to get back to the other side. So let's do the same menu, but the same movement, but in reverse. So down left for a half, up left for half, and then up right. And you'll see that our synergy has gone up to 2, which is perfect. It has to be 2. If you're at 1, for example, you were at like an uneven number of synergy points before you started, you have to change your party setup. So how do you change the party setup? You would have to go in and don't move your cursor, just tap the right shoulder button twice. So you would have to go like 1, 2. And that would give you a single Isaac, and now you would only regenerate 1 synergy per tick. Either way, we're at 2, so we have to run down. This is probably one of the trickier parts to explain. We have to hit the 24 tile below us. So there is no real setup, you just kind of have to try and guess. What you can do is stutter step, so you do like a small step, check your menu, see if your party changed, then do another small step, check your menu, and if you do that, then once your party changes, you'll know you're on the correct tile. What we want is to go from 8 party members down to 7. So let's move down. We can see we have 8 party members. Let's go down again. We can see I have 7 now. This is what we want. Once we have 7, we just press left, just run left. This is our synergy value, that's why we drain all of our synergy. To set this to 2, because 2 will be read by the game as a door. And this door will take us right back to where we first did our retreat warp. Which is convenient because we want to retreat warp again. So we use retreat, and we save our game into slot 1. Here we can soft reset. So now we don't have to do anything crazy, we just load the game, but we will be out of bounds again. And we'll be back to where we started first time. Except this time we don't have any encounters, so there's nothing to stress about. And the movement will be a bit easier as well. So, for the final out of bounds, we're going to just run up plus right until Isaac appears on the screen. I'll get rid of the grid for a moment, because as we will see, Isaac will become visible. We're going to go up plus right. There he is. Cool. And then we just run around this room in this way. And we are going to wedge into this corner. Right here. This corner. And then what we have to do next is we run right off the screen. And then left again. And these are about 1 second back and forth. So 1 second, 1 second. and now we've done it twice. That's the amount of times we want to do that. The reason we are doing that is to regenerate synergy, because we have to get to a specific value. Or above a value, rather. So, we've done this back and forth twice. Now we can... I'll turn on this grid again, because otherwise we'll be lost. So again, the last part will be blind, but it won't be nearly as bad as before. So we run off the screen to the right, get into this corner instead, and then we just run up for 9 bass notes. So we're listening to the background, just the thumps, and we'll use those 9 of them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and we'll be set up on this block. Now, this isn't the block that we want to be on, actually. Where we want to be instead is 1 block to the right. How do we do that? We just have to tap right. There's no easy setup for it. You just kind of have to guess how much movement is required to do it. But yeah, we only have to move 1 tile, so it's really just a quick tap. So we're holding B, quick tap, and there you see we've moved 1 tile by just tap. It's like a 1/10 of a second, if even that. And from here, we can save the game into slot 2. I'll clear it up for a moment. So slot 2, important. Save the game in slot 2. But we do not reset. Very important also. Do not reset. After saving, we open our status menu 1 more time and press the right shoulder button to move everything back into position. Things will turn invisible, but if we get out and in again, we'll see that it's not actually like that. Instead, we have 8 party members again, rather than 7. So we've saved in this location with 7 party members, and then we bring back the 8th party member. So, from here, we'll just run left. And if we pay close attention, we'll see that the screen will shift. Like, we'll have a visual indication of where we are. So let's start running. There you see, the whole screen moves, which is perfect because we want to line it up on this left wall. I'll explain it a bit better than that. So if we pay close attention to the walls, you can see the left wall appears on the screen. Yep, true. And what we want is to line it up so that we just barely cannot see any full black line. So we don't want this, for example. We want it to be like this. We can't see any full line of black in the bottom left, which is perfect. That's what we want. And then we have to move down by 1 tile. Again, there's no easy setup. You just kind of have to, well, tap down for just a moment. It takes a bit of practice to get the timing down, but effectively we're just going to tap, and there we are. And then we save the game with 8 party members, as mentioned before. But not in slot 2. We need to use slot 1 now. So we have 7 party members in slot 2. We have Vault in slot 3. And the 8 party members go into slot 1. So we've saved. We can soft reset the game. And that will be the final few setups for triggering ACE, or arbitrary code execution, which we will use to end the game. So, now that we've done all of that, we can finally make use of this vault save. We'll load it, and when we hear the music, we can reset. It doesn't matter, you don't have to reset right away, but that's the fastest way you will do it. If you hear the music, you're clear to reset. So let's do it. And by reset, I do mean soft reset. So we hear the music, soft reset. That has loaded Vault into our out-of-bounds data. Now we can load slot 1. We can press A. Keep in mind this would be blind, but we press A, bring up this menu, and close it again. Let's close it again. After we've closed it, we can run up plus right for just a moment, and then right. And by just a moment, we're just, it really is just a moment. So we just tap up right and then run right. And we'll just keep running right until we hit a door, and that will be this 11 to our right. So we just keep running, and we'll be on this vine. Perfect. So from this vine, we have to reload the room 12 times. How do we reload the room 12 times? Well, we just so happens we're on a vine, and there's a door at the top, so we can climb up the vine. It's 1, and then we can go back onto the vine again, so which will be 2. And we just do this until we hit 12. So we're now at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we've loaded the room 12 times. This kind of shifts the out-of-bounds data one piece at a time until we get the correct outcome. After we've done that 12 times, we can soft reset the game. And we'll load slot 1 again. Now the setup we had before comes into play, where we just barely didn't have the black coming onto the screen, as we can see. And now we have to step left for just a fraction of a second to hit the tile to our left. And then from here, we will open our menu. So we open the menu, close it again, and then we run up for 1 second, up left, and up for 2 seconds. The up left is just a quick tap, and then up for 2 seconds until we hit this tile. Then we soft reset. And finally, we'll be loading slot 2. So, slot 2 is loaded, and the timing here is quite different, or difficult, I should say. I will rewind a bit because it's hard to show it off without the right timing. There we go. So, okay. So what we're going to be doing, and I'll pause the game so there's no music. When we load in, we have to run right. As we're loading in, we just hold run and right. Then as we hear the second note of the bass line, we have to run down plus right for half a second, and then let go of down. So you're always moving right, but you're adding the down for half a second. The final input, so like running right, you don't have to stop on a precise tile. You can save a little bit of time by stopping on a specific tile, but you don't have to. You can just keep running right if you want to, and you'll preserve your debug mode. So I will load in, and I will, as I said, run right until the second note of the bass line comes in, then hit down for half a second, and then I will continue to run right. And as you can see, we are outside, but we have now activated debug mode. So we can, as you can see, we can bring up these screens or this screen. We can bring up all the debug screens. Also, this is very different now, which is what we wanted. This is the final goal of this category. So once we've done that, we can bring up the warp menu, like I said, by holding B and pressing start. So we're holding B, press start. There we are. Now, in order to warp to the credits, we're going to use these inputs. We're going to press the left shoulder 5 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 left shoulder buttons. Press right once, and then press down. Then the right shoulder button once, and press left. And from here we press A, and this will bring us straight to the credits. And therefore the end of the game. I'll turn off the script now. Actually, let me... There we go. Turn this off. Okay, so we've reached the credits. That's the end of the speedrun. But we have one more thing to do to make it a valid run. So let's skip through the credits and then get to that point. This will take just a moment. Alright, we've made it. Cool. So, we get this prompt to save the game, and we do want to save the game. We save our adventure, and we choose any slot you like. Whichever you prefer, it's fine. All of it is fine. So, let's save. Cool. And because I had the script running, I'm not sure if my debug mode is going to be preserved, but let's find out. If not, I'll just turn it on again. Just to show what the ending is supposed to look like. But if you have debug mode, you can skip cutscenes as well by pressing L and R together at the same time. Just press it once, and cutscenes will skip like this. So, we've skipped the cutscene, get to the end, and we have to... It's important that you don't reset the game or something like this. Like, you want to make sure that you preserve your debug mode by not resetting. So this just reloads the game. So we've saved into whatever slot we wanted. When we get back to the game's main menu, we can go to the battle menu to load our clear data. Now, because we have debug mode, we can bring up those flags that we mentioned all the way at the beginning. So we hold down B and press select. This brings up this menu. We don't have to do anything with it. It doesn't have any impact. What's important is that you can show it at the end of your run. Because this lets us verify that the run is legit. If you've used a normal starting file, then this will always be legit. There's like the only reason this would be wrong is if you did some weird stuff during the intro, basically. So if you just follow the standard speedrunning intro, a good example is in Plex's All-Jin World Record run. He does a speedrun intro in that run. Or you can just use the files that we provide for emulator if you are inclined to use emulator. And that's pretty much it. Once you've shown this, you can submit your video to speedrun.com and you can get your time on the leaderboard. So that will be the end of this guide, actually. That is the full guide to running Goma on 80%. I really hope that this is helpful in some way. Again, if you want to learn more about the game and the mechanics in depth, feel free to join the community's Discord server. I'll leave a link to that. And with that, thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you on the leaderboard, actually. So, yeah, that will be all.